When we open the book of Proverbs, it's so easy to treat those first few verses like a simple preface, something you just kind of skim through to get to the good stuff. But those first 7 verses, they are so much more than an introduction. They're actually the theological key, the very foundation that unlocks the entire book. So let's dig in and see why.
Right off the bat, we have to ask a massive question, one that this ancient book is completely laser-focused on. And that is, what is true wisdom? The answer you'll see might not be what you think at all.
Okay, to really get what Proverbs is up to, we have to understand the world it was born into. See, this book isn't just offering tips for a good life. It's completely redefining wisdom, shifting it from being just a human technique to something infinitely more profound, a divine covenant.
Back in the ancient world, wisdom literature was actually pretty common. In powerful empires like Egypt and Mesopotamia, wisdom was seen as a practical skill. It was a tool, a technique taught to the elite, the future kings and scribes, to help them succeed in politics, manage their wealth, and hold on to power. It was really all about skillful living.
And this sets up a huge contrast. While the rest of the world saw wisdom as this detached strategy for getting ahead, Israel's understanding was radically different. For them, true wisdom wasn't a technique, it was covenantal. It wasn't about social climbing, but about a relationship of loyalty. It was about living rightly under the loving rule of God.
And get this, the very first line of the book signals this massive shift. By identifying Solomon not just as king, but as the son of David, the book intentionally places itself in that royal wisdom tradition, but then it completely redefines it. That title, Son of David, is theologically loaded. It's not just about a smart king, it's about a covenantal heir, and that changes everything.
So let's jump into the text itself and watch how this builds. Verses 2 through 6 are like a waterfall of purpose clauses, a cascade that builds momentum, driving us toward one single central truth. This is the axis on which the entire book of Proverbs turns. You can almost feel the rhythm here, can't you? To know, to understand, to receive, to give, to increase. This is not a random collection of sayings. This book has a very clear goal. It's meant to shape us, to form us. It's about building a life that is deeply in tune with God's good and beautiful order. And then, bam, it all comes to a head in verse 7. This right here is the thesis statement. It's the gravitational center for the whole book. If we misunderstand this one verse, we're going to misread everything that comes after it. So the big question is, what on earth does it mean?
So that word fear in Hebrew is yira, and it's so much richer than just being scared. Yira is this profound state of reverence, of heart-stopping awe, of deep covenant loyalty, and a willing, joyful, relational submission to God. It's the starting point, the absolute foundational principle of all true knowledge. Now, this leads to a pretty staggering claim. Without this reverential alignment with God, all other knowledge, no matter how much you have, becomes twisted and distorted. How we know anything, epistemology, is completely tied to who God is, theology. You can stack up facts to the ceiling, but without this core reverence, you will never be truly wise.
And on the flip side, this completely redefines what it means to be a fool. In the Bible, folly isn't about having a low IQ or being socially awkward. No, it's a moral problem. It's a theological problem. Folly is covenant rebellion. It's looking at God's authority and saying no thanks, and in doing so, denying the very fabric of reality itself.
This brings us to a fascinating tension in the story of wisdom, a kind of problem that starts with the very first speaker, Solomon himself, and creates a promise that points us forward in hope.
Solomon is the poster child for this wisdom, right? We all know the story. He asks God not for riches or power, but for discerning heart, for wisdom. And God gives it to him in overflowing abundance.
And yet, there's a tragic turn in Solomon's story. For all of his legendary wisdom, his heart eventually turned away. His fear of the Lord, that foundational reverence, it fractured. His incredible wisdom did not in the end save him from incredible folly. And this tension is absolutely crucial because it tells us something is still missing. Solomon's failure leaves us hanging. It creates this ache, this deep need for a wiser, greater son of David. We don't just need someone who can speak wise proverbs, we need someone who can perfectly embody wisdom itself, in his very being. And wouldn't you know it, that's exactly where the New Testament picks up the story. It opens by introducing us to Jesus Christ, the Son of David. That is not an accident. A direct line is being drawn from the opening of Proverbs to the opening of the Gospels.
The ultimate Davidic king, the one we've been waiting for, has finally arrived. And this is where it all comes together in the most breathtaking way. The wisdom that Proverbs points us toward, the wisdom that the whole world was aching for. Well, it turns out it's not a what, it's a who. It's not a principle, but a person.
The Apostle Paul just comes right out and says it. In Colossians chapter 2, verse 3, he declares that in Christ are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Every single strand of true wisdom finds its source, its meaning, and its glorious fulfillment in him.
Think about that shift for a second. It is profound. Proverbs invites us into the school of wisdom, to learn its principles. The New Testament comes along and reveals that the headmaster of the school, the entire curriculum, and the graduation prize are all one and the same, the person of Jesus Christ.
And hey, remember that fear of the Lord, the very thing Solomon stumbled over? Well, the prophet Isaiah, way back in chapter 11, foretold that the coming Messiah, this greater son of David, would be different. For him, the fear of the Lord wouldn't be a duty, it would be his delight. Where Solomon's reverence faltered, Christ's was perfect, constant, and joyful. He is the perfect embodiment of everything Proverbs calls us to. And in this contrast, you see the beautiful heart of the gospel. Proverbs calls for our formation through instruction. It's a call to try, to will ourselves into reverence. But the gospel provides something so much deeper, transformation through grace. It's not about trying harder, it's about receiving a new heart, a heart that has reverence, that yirah, supernaturally written on it by God himself.
The world's idea of wisdom and God's wisdom collide in the most dramatic way possible at the cross. What human wisdom looked at and called the ultimate act of foolishness, a crucified king, a defeated God, is revealed to be the very power and the very wisdom of God for our salvation.
So let's just recap. The foundation laid in Proverbs 1 sets up this incredible need, doesn't it? A need for a true royal son, a need for perfect covenant reverence, and a need for a way to actually form a people who are wise. And the gospel answers every single point, revealing the perfect fulfillment of all three in the person and work of Jesus Christ.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, and the most perfect, most complete, most beautiful revelation of the Lord stands right before us in his Son. Therefore, the beginning of all true wisdom, the foundation upon which every true thing is built, is simply this: to behold him rightly.